I could describe the Get My Life tour in one word, it would be vulnerability. Showing up for yourself is so important. Welcome to the Get My Life tour. I'm your host, Lydia T. Blanco. Hey y'all, and welcome to the Get My Life tour. It is me, your host, Lydia T. Blanco, and I am so excited that you decided to show up for yourself. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the Get My Life tour. Thank you so much for taking the time to commit to showing up for yourself and for being so supportive. And if you are returning, look, you know I have nothing but love for you. Last week, I actually decided that I wanted to respect the international moment of mourning, with the great loss of Kobe and Gianna Bryant and the 7 other passengers who were aboard on, the helicopter with them. So thank you so much for respecting that moment with me. But we are back. I am excited. And, everyone's really recapping that moment and sharing, what it means to them. For me, I just really want to continue to be consistent, to love hard, be kind, and make every moment count. And with you tuning in on this stop of the tour, I just want to thank you for being present and making yourself available. Let me tell you something. I am so excited for this stop of the tour. And I say that every episode, but when I tell you my level of enthusiasm with a capital E is high, y'all, it is because today's guest on this stop of the tour is my beloved line sister, my soror, my sister, my friend, Jillian Lynum, or Jill, or Jillian, or Baby Delta. Oh my gosh. Okay, so before I give my proper introduction, I have to share who this woman is and why she means so much to me. So, oh my goodness, 10 years ago, nearly 10 years ago, we pledged the only sorority that matters.
That there is.
Depending on who you ask. Okay, cool. That there is. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated on the campus of Bennett College in Greensboro, North Carolina. And she was the youngest on our line. And she is our baby, but she is our sister. She is a boss. And now she has a PhD. And we are so proud of Jill.
Thank you.
To you, you are welcome, girl. You are welcome. To you, she is Jillian Lynum, mental health professional. She has her PhD, yes. And she is also the host and creator of the Melanin Exchange podcast and blog. She's dope. She is beautiful. And she is my guest, our guest today here on the Get My Life tour. And you're probably wondering, oh, why Jill? And my response to you is, why not? Also, she is dope. And as you know, or if you do not know, because this is your first time tuning in, the Get My Life tour is not about celebrity at all whatsoever. It is not about the who's who of millennials, Gen Y, Z, LMNOP, or anything of that nature. It is about those who are ready to share how they got through and how they are getting through on their journeys. And that is what makes the Get My Life tour the Get My Life tour. So without further ado, help me welcome the beautiful, incomparable Jillian Lynum to the Get My Life tour.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You are Oh my gosh, you are so welcome. You know, Jillian is so accomplished. She is. And everybody keeps on telling me, Lydia, you are not old. I am 30 years young, out here living, loving, and thriving. But you are a baby.
I mean, you only have 2 years on me. That's it.
Okay, but still, I know. My line sister, I'm just going to make this real possessive, has her PhD, okay? And why she is here on the Stop of the Tour is because we are going to talk about what her PhD taught her. And that is to trust the process. You know what, Jill, jump in, because this is a conversation that is going to be transformative for so many different people. So I've already introed you, right? But they're like, okay, tell me more. So in your own words, tell us, who is Jillian Lynum?
It's funny that you asked that question, because I would say the answer has probably changed in the last 6 months, maybe a little longer. But in some ways, there are very similar qualities as the old me into the new me. But I'm someone who absolutely loves what I do. I thought I was very passionate about what I did until I really had to reach deep and find what my true purpose really was in life. So I pursued this whole idea of going to grad school, getting my doctorate in clinical psychology, doing that pretty young and sacrificing. I'm still sacrificing, but really sacrificing like a solid 5 years of my life to graduate, get into the field, and realize, what am I doing? Because I still did not feel fulfilled outside of going to work every day. And the majority of my experience is working in corrections, providing individual group therapy, testing, all of these sorts of things. And I worked in a number of communities with people of color and with vulnerable populations. And that was my jam. Like, I loved it. But something was still missing. And I really had to go through some life struggles in the last year, I would say, and hit rock bottom to figure out, yeah, it's nice to be a doctor and, you know, people really hype that up, but it's a lot that comes with it. And what is there that I am in search for? Because I still felt pretty empty. Financially, that process was a lot. And I had a lot of resentment about the process. Because I sacrificed a lot. I felt like I missed out on a lot in life, a lot of family time, a lot of time with friends because of that sacrifice I had to make to get to this next level. But at the end of the day, that actually meant nothing when you're not fulfilled and you don't have inner peace and inner happiness. And for me, I was someone that, in all honesty, being real here, was looking for all of those things in all of the wrong places besides myself. So when you mentioned trusting the process isn't just trusting it while you're in it, but trusting it afterwards. Because a lot of times we feel like we have our lives all figured out, and I'm going to do this and then do that and then do that, and we have it in order. And that's not how it works. And one thing that, you know, you and I have talked about outside of this podcast is that a lot of times we forget that we are not in control, no matter how much we try to control things and follow a blueprint. Like, that blueprint is already designed for us. And so when things don't go according to plan, we freak out. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was like, this is not how I saw my life. So, yeah, that sums up who I am and the journey that I'm on. And talking about getting my life in the last year. Whew.
It is truly a process. You know, one of the things that I think about so prominently when you say, you know, the plans, right? The Most High, you know, has the outline for us in Jeremiah 29:11, right? When he says, for I know the plans that I have for you. And on Wednesday with Love Lydia Wednesday, I talked about sticking to the plan, right? Even when you have to switch up your strategy. And I wasn't talking about my plan, you know, we pray as believers, right? As people who believe in the Most High, you're like, okay, what is the plan? You want to be in tune and in alignment and figure out what the plan is so that you can stick to it. And you know, people often say when you make your own plans, like God will laugh at you, right? You also spoke about in identifying who you are, sharing who you are. It was almost like someone had told you what you were going to be. Right? Let's talk about what that answer would have been 6 months ago and where that came from.
So probably 6 months ago, someone or I had this belief also that I would be stable in my career. Of course, maybe not making the most money because it takes a while to become self-sufficient and to land a decent career. But I honestly thought that I would have a solid career at this point and be at the minimum. I don't want to say comfortable, like that being the end result, but at least comfortable enough to be able to manage, my basic needs. And that is not what happened at all. And I'm actually probably going to talk about this on my podcast very soon, because these are just conversations I have often where, when we grow up, our families have instilled in us a number of values that influence who we are and who we become. And so you often hear when she grows up or when he grows up, they're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or this or that. And it's just like, says who? That's what other people have for us. That's what they want us to aspire to. And sometimes we do. But that's not necessarily our passion or where we belong. That might not be a part of our journey. So then I feel like a lot of people that I've met, and even at times in my life, I've pursued things because that's what I was told. And so it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. And, we take that on. I took that on. And don't get me wrong, I don't regret necessarily what I did, but I definitely would have done things different as it relates to my educational and career process.
Right. So we invest so much into our educations and our careers. And, as children, as teenagers, and even young adults, we are very impressionable. Did you always want to pursue a PhD, or was that something, your mother was like, hey, that's my doctor. That's my mental health professional.
So I would say one thing that I am grateful to her for is I don't really feel like she pushed this idea of becoming a doctor on me, but she did push education upon me. And so that is a value that I hold very dearly. I would say, so the process for me was that at one point I wanted to go to law school because I knew I wanted to work with vulnerable populations. I knew I wanted to work in the justice system in some capacity. And then it dawned on me after, talking to mentors and things like that. I'm like, I don't want to do that, because I would be doing the opposite of what I want to do. And that's to be able to offer some assistance and support. And then other things happened in my life where mental health was on my radar, like, whoa. And so then I started the typical, like, I wonder why they did this to end up in this situation. And I remember being in high school and watching the news and thinking to myself, like, why would this teenage boy do this? Nobody just rolls out the bed and decides they're going to go rob somebody. Like, something has happened in, someone's life to get to that point. So after I had kind of gone through that process, I was like, forget law school. So then I started thinking about psychology, because I'm like, now I'm interested in the brain and behavior and thought process and all of this. So in undergrad, I pursued a degree in psychology, and I've just kind of stuck with that since. And I am happy that I made that decision. But yes, I would not say that she pushed that on me. Now, one thing she does now that drives me crazy is when we're out in public, even as an adult, it's like, oh, she's a doctor, right? And I'm like, makes me cringe, because that does not define me. That does not define who I am. I'm so much more than just a doctor. And, you know, I've always been someone that like doesn't like the spotlight at all. Not to say that I minimize my accomplishments, but I just don't feel like all of that is necessary because it doesn't define who I am.
Yeah. Oh my. It is so interesting. So I was in Oregon and in Portland with my father, and we were on like the light rail out there. And we were sitting and talking, and he turned to this guy, this random dude on the train, and was like, "Oh, this is my daughter. She's a journalist." And I was like, "Ooh." I was like, "Papi, cállate, por favor, like silencio." And he was like, "No, it's okay. Like, no, you know, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you." And I was like, I don't know why I was so embarrassed. But it just creates this air, but also, I don't know. It just makes me, it catches you off guard, right? And there's like this expectation for you to be great. But then this is also the issue, right? Because I feel like it's a two-sided conversation, because it's one thing to be held to a certain standard publicly and also have the experience or the duality of being,
human.
I don't want to say torn down, right? But, you know, torn down by that same person or others. On your journey to PhD, right? Those 3 little letters that carry so much weight now in your life, what has it been like living in the duality of, you know, having the privilege of being an elitist, but also being everyday Jill who has everyday real life to, you know, go through as well.
Yeah, that duality that you speak to is very real, which is actually what influenced my desire to create the Melanin Exchange. Because as a woman of color, I often have observed and experienced that we have to wear these masks based on what society says, where in a meeting or at a conference, we're this way, but at home, we're this way. And, you know, one thing that has always stuck out in my mind, there's a lot of research about how Black women are the face of depression or silent depression, which is very true because, you know, and I think it's even bigger than just Black women. I think it's women of color in general that we carry a lot. You know, we're trying to balance work-life balance, relationships, friendships, professional goals, personal goals, while all still trying to do our own work at the same time. And so for me, professionally, yes, it's nice because in most cases, not only am I probably the only woman of color with a doctorate degree at any like internship or anything that I've ever had, any job, but I'm also young.
Yes.
And on the flip side of that, one thing that I've started to do to lead by example is incorporate some of the personal into the professional. So I say it to clients, I say it to friends, like at the end of the day, we are all human. And I normalize that because no matter what degree I have or anyone else may have, we are human. Because having a degree or having a title for a lot of people takes away their individuality and the room that they should have to be human and puts that pressure on people. And that's not fair.
Yeah, it's not. And you have to have a certain level of authentic intelligence as well, right? I think oftentimes people get the 3 little letters and the level of pretension goes up with their degree level as well. And it's just like, wait, what is going on? But I really appreciate that point because it's so easy to get lost in the sauce, for lack of better words, as you climb in your career. I want to know really, what were some of the sacrifices you had to make on your journey to becoming, Jillian Lynum, PhD? Because I think everybody thinks about the textbooks and the long dissertation, clinicals, things of that nature. But let's delve a little bit into the relationships that, you've had to navigate over the last 5 years, that support system, the lack thereof, and how you have really maintained your mental health as you pursue being a mental health professional.
So I have like 5,000 thoughts related to this question. But I would say that the sacrifices have definitely been related to relationships for sure. So, being in such a rigorous program and making a sacrifice as big as going to graduate school definitely requires a lot. There are people in your circle, no matter how long you have known them, no matter how long I knew them, they just did not understand my journey. And at one point in time, I used to get really upset about it. And finally, I had to understand they can't understand what I'm doing. They've never been here. So, no, I can't go out to every event that you ask me to. One, I can't afford it being in grad school. And so really just being mindful and accepting of that and realizing that it's not personal. Like, we just don't relate. And the same with family. Like, a lot of times I would hear some of my colleagues talk about the same things. Like, I'm calling home and they want me to come home every 5 seconds. And it's just like, I can't. And so even though I was not that far away from home, being in grad school, I did not go home often because me traveling, that's time that's taken away from me writing this paper, me doing something related to getting to the next level so that I can successfully complete this program. And so I would definitely say that the sacrifices were related to relationships, but also financially. The financial strain of going to a doctorate program is ridiculous. And I'm still recovering from that. And I'm still not in the place that I would like to be because of all of the sacrifices. And you asked about mental health. In hindsight, that's one thing that I realized probably got put to the back burner. Because when you're in grad school, especially a doctorate program, studying psychology, there's going to be a lot of stuff that gets stirred up that you learn about, like in classes or just applied experiences while you're learning. And a lot of things I thought I was very, very, very aware of related to myself and my background and just various origins of things. But it wasn't until like all of that had come to an end that it hit me like a ton of bricks. And so one thing I vividly remember them saying in graduate school is that you need to have a therapist. And I was like, a therapist? Even though this was something I thought about prior to graduate school. And so since graduate school up until now, and probably for the rest of my life, I will always have a therapist because I believe that a good therapist has a therapist. Because we're always we're always a work in progress no matter what. And there are going to be challenges that arise. And I tell people all the time that everybody should have a therapist. That's just a little plug right there. Because you just never know what's going to happen in life. And all it takes is one event for you not to be able to cope with or bounce back from. And next thing you know, everything kind of snowballs from there. So in order for my mental health to be taken care of, I definitely have a therapist. I definitely talk to friends. I definitely protect my energy. And I'm very intentional. That was one of my major goals for the last years, to be intentional with my time and my energy. Everything that I am surrounded by impacts me, whether it's what I'm watching on TV or what I'm listening to on the radio. And all of that impacts mental health. And it definitely did for me.
That's so good. So I remember being in grad school and being in that intense
Yes.
program at Columbia and not thinking like about every element that was going to impact my lifestyle, like, and just my livelihood and well-being. You know, you spoke about being away from family. That's a
Yeah.
very real thing. You know, the luxury of convenience goes out the window when you are willing to sacrifice everything for what it is that you believe you are called to do. And then there's also the reality that, like I said, when you're sticking to the plan, which is the plan of the Most High, that your plan changes.
Yeah. And I think I know where you're going with this.
Right? Yes. Because I want to make sure that people understand that your PhD is your journey. Or let me say it like this. The journey to your PhD is different from anyone else's, right? We see that PhD. I'm like, oh my gosh, Dr. Lynum. It was a thing. It still is. I am so proud of you, but I'm not proud of you because I get to say my line sister has her PhD. I'm proud of you because you have trusted the process and you are now committed to the Most High's plan. Now, people are probably like, Lydia, what are you talking about? Get to the point. Here it is, y'all. Stick with me. Your PhD took you on another path, right? So you are still a mental health professional. But I want to know about the moment that shifted when you said, you know what? Somebody's not going to be able to call me Dr. Lynum. Like, call me Jillian Lynum, PhD, not Dr. Lynum. Talk to us more about that.
So, being in a program, the goal was to become a psychologist. Yeah, that's great. Has lots of bells and whistles. That was a dream that I've had for a very long time. This girl here did not pass her licensing exam. Not once, but twice. And my world was turned upside down because I knew at that point it would be very difficult to obtain a job. Most jobs, for those that don't know, there used to be a point in time where a lot of jobs for early clinicians or psychologists were easier to find, even if you weren't licensed, but there would be like a time frame that you had to complete the license within. Those jobs rarely exist now for, the right reasons in terms of just ethics and legality and things like that. But when you're really trying and you still need to put a roof over your head and food on your table, like, it doesn't matter. That I don't want to hear that. So I failed my licensing exam once, the first time after going through a really bad breakup, a transition that was completely unexpected, but I still pushed through. And this is why I'm saying, like, a lot of times I feel like, mental health gets pushed to the back burner because you have to keep pushing through. And so I took the licensing exam. I've never been a good test taker anyway, but I put all of that negative energy, all of these myths and all of that crazy stuff out of my head. And I'm like, I'm going to do this. I got in there and took that test and I said, what the heck is this? And I had been studying for probably 3 months or so. So I was okay. I cried. I'm not going to lie to you. And I went home to my mom. After that, I traveled home because I was just like, what the heck? And I've already had a rough few months as it is. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take like a month break and I'm going to study again. And I'm going to get this thing. I felt amazing about it. Went in there and I was like, oh, I feel better. I know this question, this question, this question. I was like, might not know a few of these, but I'm okay. Got the same freaking score both times. And I'm like, wow, okay. And that second time, I was like, God, I don't know what you have for me right now, but whatever it is, bring it to me. And so one thing that has always been sacrificed also while I was in grad school, I really wanted to start a blog and a podcast, but I never had the time. There was practicum. There was internship. I also had a part-time job. There were all these different things. There was life that was happening. And finally it clicked to me that had I passed that test, I would have got whatever job I needed and went on about my way. And I was like, you know what? This is the time that I think I need to do this. And I really started digging deep about what my passion was. And it was at that moment that I realized my passion was much bigger than being a doctor.
Oh, okay. Come on, Holy Spirit. What I hear right now is that in failing the test, you got the answer.
I got the answer to a lot of things. I was probably around rock bottom when I had taken the test the first time and was starting to recover the second time I took the test. But after I passed that test the second time, there was a lot of stuff that happened in my life that came to the surface, and it came quick. And so that test got pushed to the back burner, and I really feel like that needed to happen for me to do some self-discovery, some self-reflection, and some self-evaluation.
Let's get into it. What are some of the things that you've learned after getting the answers that you needed, right? What did that test teach you?
It definitely taught me that your passion is bigger than what I thought it was. My passion was bigger than what I thought it was. You know, I thought, honestly, I had arrived once I had gotten this degree and let's rock and roll. Let's make a difference in the community. Let's get this money. But it was way bigger than that. Way, 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 way bigger. Bigger than words can even describe. It was way bigger. I fell in love with myself all over again because I had to. It forced me to. I got rid of old relationships. I started valuing new relationships that fed me and my soul and were mutually beneficial. And
mutually beneficial.
That part. Man, mutually.
Let's say it together. Mutually beneficial.
Seriously, mutually beneficial.
Oh my gosh.
And one, I got much closer to God than I've ever been in my whole life. And I grew up in the church, all of that. In college, went to church, grad school, went to church. But when all these tests started happening, I had a job where I worked Sundays. I didn't go to church for a whole year. And I'm not saying it's all about going to church, because it's not. So whether you're religious or spiritual, and I do consider myself to be more of a spiritual person, but not only was I not going to church, I wasn't talking to him a lot. I was not talking to God. And yeah, I would say me getting closer to him happened in response to those tests. And it wasn't just about the actual test.
Yeah. You know, we put our hopes into so many things, and we prepare for so many moments I feel like at times have nothing to do with us, or nothing to do with the Most High's plan. And those are very teachable moments. You know, I think about how ambitious I've been over the years and all these other things. And I'm just like, okay, so what all will I say that has been for? Right? But when I am recording this podcast and speaking to people about their journeys, I'm like, okay. All right. And for me, a lot of that has been about getting back to the dreams of my childhood. You know, we know what we want so early in life, and there are so many people who are naysayers, and so many things that are distractions, and so many things that come along the way that discourage us and remove us from the Most High's plan. And it takes us a while to get back to those things. You know, you are so well spoken. You are beautiful. They will see you once I post your graphic. She is spoken for, okay? But you've always been poised when we, you know, we're pledging. and when were leading as the chapter president, like you've always been who you are, right? And now I feel like you've almost been in hiding for quite some time. Oh, what is it like now being more visible?
Yeah.
Now that you aren't in pursuit of what it is that you thought you needed to be pursuing.
I'm blown away. Like, I'm an only child, so that's also where not liking the spotlight comes from. Even though a lot of people think like, well, you probably would have been in the spotlight being the only child because it was only you and that attention wasn't shared. But I do not like the spotlight. And these tests that we're speaking about is what has pushed me into the spotlight, because I'll be honest, I didn't think I had a testimony until all of these revelations recently happened within the last year. And I was like, I would be doing a disservice to not only myself, but to other people to be silent. And so being in the spotlight now, and I don't really feel it yet, but to be honest, it's a complete honor, because everybody doesn't have this self-discovery that I am fortunate to have. Everybody doesn't get there. Or there's all these years that are shaved off of someone's life because it takes them much longer to get to this process. So I'm honored because I know that this is an absolute privilege. And at any point in time, it can be taken away from me if I allow it to.
Oh, okay. Look, you got me over here going, okay? I'm thinking about Job, and I'm thinking about how perfect his life was, and how God was like, yeah, here, look, take him. He's still gonna honor me.
Yep.
And Job was like, woe is me. Why would I be birthed and cursed, this and that. And then has this moment, and it's like we see him not, he's just so clean and untouched. And then we see him touched and we're like, ooh, so you gonna curse him like that? Okay, cool. And then he comes back, what we would call a come to Jesus moment. And it's just so, I don't know why that is what came to mind when you talked about the feeling of not having a testimony. I guess I want to ask you about your Job moment. It's an honor now, right? But when you were going through, what were some of the moments that brought you closer to the Most High?
So I was in the middle of finishing a position. I really, really, really loved that job. But being a woman of color, speaking out, did not get me very far. Even though I did it respectfully and professionally, it didn't get me far at all. On top of the fact that, let's not forget, I didn't pass the licensing exam, and that was a requirement in order to stay at that job. So not only were the clients that I worked with very distraught about me leaving. Why? Because I was the only person of color with a doctorate that worked with them, and according to them, the most authentic. But that job was, I felt like, snatched away from me, because I'm like, I know how to do my job, and I'm confident that I do my job well, and the clients and the staff value me, but the administration does not. And so my first Job moment at that job was that don't stay anywhere you're not valued, because if somebody really wants you there, they'll keep you no matter what. No matter what, even if it's creating a position for you. And that was my first Job moment. And I had to really believe that and accept that. And in that moment, I knew then, I said, something is greater. I don't know what it is, but something's greater. Then the breakup, where I thought I was happy, and having to hit rock bottom unexpectedly based on my own poor decisions. which I can accept and own, and I'm okay with that. But not that I agree with the way how things ended, but I feel like if they did not, I would be stuck there. And I say stuck by choice, like making an active choice to stay there. But I feel like being released from that situation opened other doors. So that was the second Job moment. And I really hit rock bottom around that, which really forced me to focus on self-love and add to the testimony. Then failing the test twice, the licensing exam twice, that definitely added to it. Then I found a job because I was also unemployed with a doctorate degree, unemployed for like a month and a half. And people don't believe that that's possible. And it is. And that's why I say, side tangent, that you can have all the degrees in the world. It does not matter at the end of the day. Because then what? Because I couldn't find a job. So I finally found a job, thought I would like it, and it was absolutely horrible. Still there now, up until this Friday, because it's my last day.
Hello, testimony.
Right, because the testimony behind all of that, me not passing the exam, me being released from their relationship, me being released from that last job, now releasing myself from this current job, because I got a job in a whole nother state.
Yes, you did. You know, oh my goodness.
Like, don't even get me started, but I got a job in a whole different state. A whole new relationship that I prayed for. So to be very specific, at the beginning of the year, I told God, I said, I didn't tell him anything. I asked him, let me be correct. I asked him, I said, you know that I'm looking to relocate. If it is in your will, allow me to do so. And I said, because, we got to be specific when we pray, no matter who you're praying to, it doesn't matter. You got to be specific and put it out there. And I said, if I am meant to relocate, allow me to relocate within the next 3 months. I got the email about this job that I'm about to relocate the next day. Testimony. Like, it's crazy. It is crazy what you can put into the universe and how you will receive it if it is meant for you. And if it's not meant for you, it just means something else is better to come.
Right. That, and when you trust,
yes, trust the process.
Not everything has felt like it has been in your favor, but it has been favorable. And I've always heard people say, well, favor ain't favor. Yeah. Everyone talks about life being a cruel teacher, right? But since we are, speaking about the Most High, the gifts he gives us because he loves us they are incredible, right? And that's what brings me to that favor ain't fair saying, because look, I know it has been a journey. It has been tough, but those things have happened in your favor. Absolutely. And they have been a part of his plan, and it has been a part of your journey, in pursuit of not only the PhD, but just of yourself. Which I think is so incredible. And, one of the reasons why I really wanted to have this conversation is because I get the question all the time about whether or not pursuing a postgraduate degree is worth it. And I tell, well, there you have it, folks. The people have spoken. I tell people all of the time, you got to sit down and answer that for yourself and really have that conversation with, the Most High. If you believe, if you got to climb up a tree and bark, sit and meditate, I don't know, go swim and speak to whoever down at the bottom of the sea. But it is a decision you have to make for
Absolutely.
yourself. And once you make it and you sign your name on a dotted line, if you aren't, taking from the bank of mom and dad, you have to make sure that that is a decision that you want to make. It is an investment, okay? But for me, it was a decision I felt like I had to absolutely make, and just, in the, Lydia stumbling over her words, in honor of being vulnerable. I don't have a PhD, right? But I have my my master's in journalism. And I was like, okay, so what am I going to share? Because I have to show up and be center stage with you here on this stop of the tour. And just, briefly, when I left San Francisco and moved to New York, it felt like something that I absolutely had to do. Now, I went to Columbia and it was my dream program. It's the #1 journalism school in the world. And I was so excited about being able to say that I made that decision. It was a very costly decision. But I knew that God was in the midst. I didn't know what my experience on the East Coast was going to be like, but I had always said I want to be a dope Black writer who lived in Harlem. And just uttering those words, God made it happen. And I am often in awe of that. But what has been even more momentous for me has been my experience here in New York. Oh my goodness. Going the distance by myself always teaches me so much. The alone time that I've had, right, in addition to being lonely, they are different, right, has been incredible. Oh my gosh. The things that I've learned about myself, I would not have been able to learn. And that has been confirmed had I still been in the Bay Area. When I return home, it feels great. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, but it's because of how God has kept me here in New York. And I know your journey in Chicago, I don't think we've said where you are, right? And we most definitely don't have to say where you're going.
But
I don't mind. Your journey... Okay, I'm still not telling you because we keep our business out these streets, but even though we're podcasters. You will find out if you follow her on the Melanin Exchange. But your journey in Chicago has been your own, coming from St. Louis, us going to college in Greensboro. There are some places. My point is there are some places that you have to go on your own. And then to the point about graduate school, I think that is a holistic decision you make depending on who you are as a person. Being this Black girl, this Afro-Latina from the Bay Area, having the experiences that I had and my passion for storytelling, I knew I had to take a leap of faith and go. I didn't have the bank of mom and dad, so I signed on a dotted line, and I knew that was a commitment I have to make for however many years. I am believing for financial freedom, right? But so many things play into our journeys. As we pursue being our best selves, as we pursue these degrees, relationships, so many things. But I felt like it was necessary for me to say that because people ask, oh, was it worth it? Oh, so how do you like New York? Oh, and tell me more about, where you work and what that's been like. You think it was all? And I'm just like, it's a part of who we are. But it's not all of who we are. But, had you not gone to Chicago, had you not pursued, that PhD for 5 years, you wouldn't be where you are. So it's so full circle.
Oh, for sure. For sure. It added to the story and the testimony, every single thing that we do.
And you are on your way. Oh my gosh. I am so excited about what is happening in your life. Like there is a completely new designed
Yes.
life, you know, and lifestyle that you are about to enter,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Okay, so I'm excited too. But, you know, what advice do you have for others who, what am I going to ask you? What advice do you have for others as they make the decision to pursue whatever? Okay, it may not even be a PhD, but just to go after something they think they want so badly.
Definitely to pray, meditate, do something where you can become closer to whatever higher power you believe in. Because when things are aligned for you, they will happen. And if they're not, they won't. So if they don't happen, that either means not right now or no. And being able to trust that process in itself. And when you're getting ready to make a decision, you also have to cut out background noise, whether it's family, whether it's friends, it does not matter. Background noise can cloud your own judgment about what it is you want, because you have people in one ear saying, yeah, do it. People in another ear saying, no, don't do it. And then everybody else that's in between. And what they say or what they want for you doesn't matter. You're grown. At the end of the day, this is a decision that you have to live with no matter what. And this is a journey that you have to take. And if people are supportive of you, they will be there to walk that journey with you. And those that won't will fall by the wayside. So definitely praying and definitely trusting the process, but also canceling out all background noise.
Ooh, okay. What? Ooh, okay. I want you to give advice to Jillian 5 years ago.
Ooh,
what would you say? What would you tell her? It could be advice. It could be a love letter. It could be something very compassionate. I really feel the need to ask you that. Like, what do you want to tell 22-year-old Jillian? Like, what do you want to tell her?
Oh, man. 22, 23. Wow. I would probably have to say to my 22, 23-year-old self that everything is not what it seems. And it is okay to be okay with that. And to trust God. And again, the process. I know I keep saying that, but I can't say it enough, to be honest, because 22, 23, I had my life figured out. And I thought I was in control. And I wasn't in control at all.
That, right, okay, look. That right there, I had my life figured out.
Man, ooh, you have no clue. I had it all figured out.
Oh, my God.
I knew it would be hard. I knew it would be some challenges. But I had no clue it would be the challenges that I had to endure.
I had my life figured out. I'm lost for words. There are so many things. I don't know why I'm getting emotional, Jill. There are so many things in society and life, just so many pressures to have it figured out. Now, I know there are young women who are in college who tune in to the Get My Life tour. And I want to tell you, you do not have to have it all figured out.
No, not at all.
Not right now.
Not at all.
And, it's so funny because I'll call people who are under 25 chicken nuggets, and they're always like, Lydia, don't call me a little chicken nugget. And I'm like, but you are just a baby. And I really want to respect where you are in your journey because, we go through life and life comes at us no matter how young or old we are. So I respect that. But for me, it's a very nurturing statement because I want people to understand, like, you don't have to be well done. Yeah. Even if you've gone through life, and it's okay to take time to grow up.
We say that part again.
I remember okay to take time to grow up.
I remember being a kid and my grandma telling me not to rush life, and I was like, I'm not. But we've all been there. Like, I can't wait to be grown. Get out your house. Do this. Do that. And the grown woman life, oh my God. And there was always don't rush growing up, but there was never an explanation as to why. It's the typical, like, you're going to have bills. No, you're going to have life. And life, like, is very real. And the pressures of, like, when are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? Like, I get really offended by that, even though I do want to be married and have kids, but everybody does not want that. And that's not for everybody. And not allowing people to put that in your heads, like, oh my God, I got to hit this goal, do this, do that, so I can get married and have kids. When I say I had it figured out, you couldn't have told me I wouldn't have been married with kids by now. And I almost was, but that clearly was not in the plan.
Oh, look.
We can do this all night, okay?
We could legit do this all night. There are just so many.
Later.
we most definitely will have part two. We can have part two on the Melanin Exchange.
Man,
here because it is so real. Life is real. Oh my gosh, and it is okay to take time to grow up. You don't have to have everything figured out. The
people who tell us this don't have it figured out, okay?
Not at all. I'm like, come on, tour now. Now I'm inviting people. Like, yeah, come on, we get in our lives, right?
Okay.
And I remember struggling with the idea of calling this podcast the Get My Life Tour, even though I had already been telling people I was getting my life.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what if at some point, I'm not getting my life? And I was like, girl, you sound crazy.
You're gonna get your life as long as you're growing.
Okay. And I was like, what if it's taken as something that's negative? And I was just like, I really hope not, right? But in you just saying that, I thought I had my life figured out. I had my life figured out.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh gosh. It is a journey. Okay, so look. Every stop on a tour, we have a mic drop moment.
Okay.
And this is your opportunity to leave it all center stage. You got to make it nasty right now. Before you just got to say it, and it's like Obama out, okay? So I'll give you a second to think about it.
Okay.
But I really want you to leave your heart on the stage.
To say that it is okay to just be okay. I think a lot of times we live in a world where things have to be perfect, or we compare ourselves to everybody else. Thank you, social media, for that. But yeah, I would say it's okay to just be okay. And that if you feel like you don't have a testimony, you do. And if you feel like you don't have a testimony, you'll get one, but be ready for it. Because one thing I can say about my testimony is that sometimes you have to deal with the pain in order to get to the healing. Because I went through some rough stuff, okay? And it was about the pain that I had to get through that I didn't even realize was there or as deep. Keep in mind that you don't owe anybody anything. You better be happy I didn't say the other words, because doctor, degree, and prayer person, like, my mouth can still be foul. But you don't owe anybody anything. And that's something I have to remind myself of. I don't owe you an explanation for what I'm doing or how I'm doing it, no matter who you are. Because a lot of times we spend a lot of our time explaining things to people who either don't get it, don't care, or are in the way. Like I did a self-care post, because I do self-care posts on the Melanin Exchange on Sundays. One said to check your circle. It's so important to know who we have around us, and that does not have limitations to anybody. Nobody is exempt from that. So that's me leaving my heart on the stage.
You know what? Oh my gosh. Part 4, 5, right? 17, 33.
Man.
Oh my gosh. I am so glad that you took center stage with me. I really hope that everyone who tunes in realizes it's bigger than the degree, and, you know, being called any title. It's really about the process. You know, 5 years to get back to the plan. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, sometimes it takes people a lifetime, and some people don't figure it out. You know, some people just aren't able to realign. And the fact that you are and that you are on your way is so inspiring, and you touched me. And I just want to thank you for your level of transparency and vulnerability. And I'm so full. I am so full. Thank you so much for sharing, Jill.
Thank you for inviting me. So believe it or not, for those people that are listening, Lydia is very spiritual and always has been, even in college, when you'd rather be out drinking with friends or whatever else you want to do crazy. And, you know, every moment in life is appropriate for different things. But that was always one thing I admired about you. And so anybody that I've ever talked to probably knows about you and that side of you. And that side has definitely fed me and played a huge role in my spiritual journey. So I wouldn't have had it any other way but to come on here and do whatever it was you wanted me to.
Oh my gosh. Thank you all. I'm so warm and fuzzy inside. This has been really good. Okay, so tell people how they can get in touch and stay connected with you.
So I don't have personal Instagram anymore because I have thoughts about social media, but I use it for business. I shouldn't even say business, but my passion. And so I have a blog and a podcast called The Melanin Exchange. So you can go on Instagram and find me on there. Spotify for the podcast. And then the website is themelaninexchange.com.
Perfect. Jillian, it has been a pleasure having you on this stop of the tour.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome, y'all. I cannot believe that my line sister is on my podcast.
I cannot believe it. You could have told me this is where we would be 10 years later.
Yo, 10 years later. Yo, we are about to go so hard for 10 years. Man. Y'all just don't understand. Spring Perfect 10 is in the building, okay?
They better get ready.
Oh my gosh, y'all, it's gonna be lit. Okay, maybe not for y'all, but for us, yes. Okay, great. So they're like, why y'all having a moment right now? This is what happens.
This is what we do.
Okay, this is what we do. It has been real. Thank you so much for tuning into the Get My Life tour. I look forward to joining you on the next stop of the tour, and be sure to stay connected. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and of course, thegetmylifetour.com. So at the Get My Life Tour, and be sure to join our Facebook community, the Get My Life Tour Backstage. I am So grateful for you taking the time to tune in and listen with your heart. It has been real. Peace.